Good morning, everybody. Wanted to have my little musings on last night's presidential debate. So thank you for joining us. All in all, I think the president did a fairly good job, and it was a pretty good debate. I think the best moment for him was when he actually thanked the moderator. That was pretty classy. I like that. He wasn't he was trying to hold back, and it was you could see it was difficult for him. He didn't look happy at the end of the debate, but it was all in all it was a good debate. However, if I were in his shoes, there were a few things that I think he missed out on, although he brought up some good points. And I think the most important thing that he should have brought up is the fundamental difference in the ideology between the American conservative ideology and the left, which I refuse to call liberal, because they're not liberal. The truth is that the American conservative is the authentic liberal, and there's absolutely nothing liberal about the left. And we kind of should stop using the word liberal as a bad word and focus on calling Democrats leftists instead of liberals. In any event, the major issue with pretty much every issue that was brought up that the president should have brought up, and the thing is, he's not an ideologue, but I know he believes this. This was something that to me meant a lot when he was elected, when he was inaugurated. I was incredibly impressed when he said that this is not merely passing the baton from one regime to another, I'm paraphrasing, but it's returning power back to the people. And I do believe that's what President Trump did, and I do believe that is what the left wants to take away. They don't want the people to have the power. They want the government to have the power. And that should have been the fundamental argument that President Trump should have made throughout the debate. Meaning, when they brought up the issue of coronavirus, his answer should have been that we have a little thing called the Constitution, which includes the 10th Amendment. And the whole idea is that the federal government is limited. And it's limited on purpose. And he kind of touched on that when he said this is a very big country. But to compare our 50 states as one union to any single European country is unfair. The more appropriate comparison would be, in a certain sense, to compare the United States as a union to the European Union, and each state to one of the member states of the European Union. And so as the President of the United States, his job is limited. He is not a dictator, he's not an autocrat. And as much as the left wants to paint him like that, he's been doing the opposite. This would be the perfect opportunity, a pandemic like this, of this proportion, for the president to have seized power autocratically, and he refused to do so because it's wrong. It's not what America's about. And so of all these things that the left would say about him, that he's some kind of a dictator, this and that, this proves that he's not. This whole situation proves that he's not. And the fact is, we do have these little petty dictators in our state and local governments, people like Cuomo and Whitmer and Bill de Blasio and so forth, that are trying to seize power, but the fact of the matter is, constitutionally, from the federal constitution, those powers are relegated to the state and local governments and to the people. And so therefore, we can disagree with the way things are being done in the blue states and the blue cities. But they have the right to do that, which the federal government does not have the right. And the ultimate difference in ideology between the two parties is that the Democrats do want to seize power. The Democrats do want to be dictators. They don't think the American people are smart enough to make their own decisions. That's what it really comes down to. And so therefore we need the nanny state to take care of us. That's what the Democrats believe. And the Republicans believe that people are smart enough to make their own decisions, to live their own lives, to run their own businesses, and not to be bullied and not to be micromanaged by a nanny state government. And that's what he really has to bring up, is the difference between these two ideologies. That's the first sign I saw for our Republican Congress candidate, Kyle. I really wanted Ola. I voted for her. Jose is this. Anyway, weiter. This issue also should have come up in the conversation on race, which I think President Trump handled very well. All right, there's the second one. I really thought, as I discussed earlier, that I should have tried to run for Congress because we have such a horrible congressman here in New York's 19th district. And if AOC could be in Congress, anybody can, even JMK here. Anyway, let's go a little weiter on this issue of race. Again, I know this is a little edgy, and this would be a little bit harder to get away with saying, but it's true, is that essentially the difference between the left's view on race and the right's view on race is fundamental to these two parties. Because the Democrat Party was always the party of racism, and the Republican Party was always the party of liberation, of freedom, of emancipation, and abolition. The Democrat Party, to this day, remains with vestiges of their past. And they have the chutzpah to declare the Republicans to be racists when the fact of the matter is that the Democrats are the racists. When President Trump says that he is the least, and he said a few times last night, he is the least racist person in the room. That's true. He's a guy from Queens. Queens is the most racially and culturally diverse borough, county, municipality in the world. Not just in New York City, not just in New York State, not just in the United States, but in the world. And he grew up with that, and he was never branded as a racist. For all the years, he was always a hero in the African American community. He was always a beloved figure in many different communities, as much as some people didn't like his brashness and this and that, or People made fun of him over the years, but essentially, and I remember growing up and we would sing songs, making fun of Donald Trump, that he drove a garbage truck or something like that. And back in the late 80s, early 90s, but the fact of the matter is, this man is the furthest thing from being a racist. And it's just been a smear that the Democrats have made by calling him a racist. So then Mr. Biden brought up that, look, he called Mexicans rapists and murderers and this and that. This comes down to the racism of the Democrat Party, because the Democrats see everything through the lens of race. So if you want to make the claim that they are no longer racially, not even biased, they are still racially biased, they're still racist, you just want to say that they no longer believe in discriminating against racial minorities, but rather, to this day, which I don't know is actually true. I think they do believe in discriminating against racial minorities in order to keep them down, in order to control them. That's what I actually believe. But if you want to take things at face value, and what they claim, and how they express themselves, the Democrats, everything is through the lens of race. Because they are a party that is obsessed with race. Or another term that's used today is identity politics, because it's not necessarily race, it's whatever kind of artificial categorization that they can create, natural or artificial, it doesn't matter, but they artificially invent these issues that really shouldn't matter. And that's the fundamental difference between the Republican ideology and the Democrat ideology. The Republican ideology is, it doesn't matter what color your skin is. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, if you identify as gay or straight, or what religion you are, etc., etc. What matters is an individual. Because in a republic, there is no king. And so to be Republican means to protect the rights of the minority over the tyranny of the majority. And when we say that we're protecting the rights of the minority, that includes the most important minority, as we said in that movie called Don't Be a Sucker, the minority of one. And I highly recommend to look up, especially if you like me, you like stuff in black and white from the 40s that's in the public domain. Look up this movie, Don't Be a Sucker. And the basic idea of that movie is that the most important minority is the minority of one. And don't let yourself be pulled by extremists who want to divide and conquer. And so when it comes to issues of all of these different groups, whether they're racial groups, whether it's based on the LGBT and that type of question, or just the simple gender, male and female, and then all these other various genders that the left wants to impose upon society, above male and female, or between them. All of the purpose of all of this is to divide and conquer, to make it us against them, so they can seize power. And the Democrats, what they care about is demographics. So they want to create voting blocks. Instead of focusing on the individual, they want to consolidate power by creating voting blocks. And that's essentially the difference between the right and the left in America, are these two issues. One is the power issue, that the right wants the power to belong to the people, and the left wants the power to belong to government. And the view of people, that the right views people as individuals, and so it doesn't matter if you're black or white. And furthermore, if you make a statement that there are bad guys coming over the border and we need to know who's who, not that we're against immigration, but we're against illegal immigration for the purpose of protecting America. I mean, if I were the president, I would have brought up even stronger this question about the 500 children who have not been reunited with their parents, that America saved them. Joe Biden lied when he said that they were taken away from their parents. And Donald Trump told the truth. They were taken away from coyotes. They were taken away from abusers. And these children were rescued from abuse. And most likely their parents are not here in America. And Joe Biden just lied. And when he said that, the president should have said, no, you're lying. These are children who were taken away from people who are not their parents. That's why we had to separate them. And most likely their parents are still wherever they are in Venezuela or Guatemala. And they were taken by coyotes. And we rescued these children from abuse. That's what the president should have said. But he brought out the idea well enough. He just should have retorted, but he was trying to hold back, obviously, because of the issues there with the style of this debate as opposed to the first debate. Another thing I think he should have done, if again it was the type of debate where he could interrupt, when Joe Biden said something about, because the president had mentioned, that he left Scranton. He keeps talking about Scranton, and he said he left Scranton when he's a little kid. When Joe Biden talked about the Dreamers, and he said, we want to send them back to a country that they've never seen, because they left whatever country that they left when they were 2 years old, and they don't have any memories, and they're part of the American society. If I were, I don't think it's only if I were Donald Trump. If Donald Trump was allowed to be Donald Trump last night, he would have said, oh, kind of like you with Scranton, And I think after he's said the comment he did say about Scranton, you notice that Biden stopped mentioning Scranton so much. And I know Scranton because I work about 20 minutes from Scranton. So that's about it as far as what we're talking about here. Those are the major issues that President Trump should have brought up stronger last night, is the major differences between the ideologies of the left and the right. That the left is about control and the left is about divide and conquer, and the right is about power to the people and the value of the individual. And so therefore, again, what we could say is that the Democrats project their ideology onto the Republicans. Because when they say, Donald Trump is a racist, and when he says that there are racists coming over, rapists and murderers coming over the border illegally from Mexico, through Mexico, whether they're coming from Mexico or through Mexico, even terrorists, the truth is there could be from other countries that are coming through a weak border. He's talking about individuals. It doesn't cross his mind, because he is the least racist person in the room, to say that this is painting a broad brush for all people of a particular nationality. The other point that the president should have brought up is when Biden mentioned the Muslim ban, that was an expansion, just like the story with the children in cages. That was something that Obama did. That this quote-unquote Muslim ban was an Obama policy, and that President Trump merely continued, and the only thing that he did was add some non-Muslim countries such as North Korea, which was, there was considerable talk about North Korea. I see a lot of people were offended on Twitter when Joe Biden said that being friendly and talking to Kim Jong-un is like talking to Hitler in the 1930s. But the truth is, I would say we only know about Hitler from the 40s, and so Hitler in the 30s was in hindsight. It's a little bit different, and I was not as offended by that as some of my friends online and some people that I follow online were. But it certainly hit a chord that made people upset at Biden. That's pretty much it, though. Let's, and that's the message I think we have to bring out is, like we said, that's the difference between these two ideologies. And in a sense, when Biden said that I don't remember exactly what he said, that Trump has a dog whistle the size of a Swiss horn or something like that, or a French horn. I don't remember what he said. What the president should have said is, you accuse me of dog whistles, meaning something that only certain people can hear. Mr. Biden has said actual openly racist comments, like the black community is not diverse. Like the one thing that he mentioned of the super criminals or something, I don't remember what the super thugs. The other comment about that he didn't want his children attending school in a racial jungle, his opposition to integration, his support of Senator Byrd, and his adoration of Senator Byrd, who was the KKK man, and how the Democrat Party was the party of the KKK, of Jim Crow, of segregation. It's still the party of segregation. You have colleges where the left are imposing upon the college students that you can only, that they have black only and white only cafes and dormitories, etc., etc. And they're fine with that. And I don't understand how that is okay in today's society in a liberal college. And that really should have been the president's response also to this question about the talk. Is that my vision of America is one where people don't see things in the lens of race. And nobody should be prejudged based on the color of their skin. And we shouldn't be dividing people into these categories that are arbitrary and meaningless. And we should live in a country where skin color should mean no more than eye color or hair color. Because that's the authentic Republican ideology and the true American conservative ideology. there's different types of conservatism, and I point out that this is the American conservatism. And I say American because the racist aspects of the world are vestigial from Europe. I could talk about this question of folkism, etc., and that really the truth is that the old Vikings were really cosmopolitan people who traded with many different races and had no ideology of racial superiority, as much as people who try to emulate them today want to claim. But that's a story for a different time. So, and it's really not for now. But the fact of the matter is, you go to these other countries that are ethno-states, and America's not an ethno-state. And all of these countries that the left say you should be models of democratic socialism are ethno-states. You know, would Sweden or Denmark elect a black president? You know, would China elect a black or a white president? You know, these types of questions. Would for that matter, would Israel elect a Christian or a Muslim president? Or prime minister? You know. If you didn't notice, I'm not a fan of Israel. So thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe. Comment. Obviously, I have a religious devotion to the Holy Land that Israel happens to be occupying, but that has nothing to do with the government. I'm an American, 100% American. Thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe. Comment, and we'll see you later. Take care.